There's a lot of ways that one might get involved in the pro-life movement. You might volunteer at a crisis pregnancy center. You might participate in a march or some sort of political activism. But another way to get involved in the pro-life movement is almost to give the movement your entire life.
Mhm.
And talking to you today, sister, I sort of feel as though I'm in the presence of the pro-life movement become incarnate.
Mm.
You're a sister of life, a religious order which, as I understand it, has been around for about 30 years or so. Sisters of Life devote themselves completely, literally take a vow to build the culture of life in our society. How beautiful. And, I admire so many things about the Sisters of Life. You guys seem to have a glow about you. I've been in so many churches and, in receptions and banquets with the Sisters of Life, prayed with the Sisters of Life. Obviously, y'all look so beautiful in your blue and white habits. All of those things are wonderful, when I think of the sisters. But perhaps the most admirable thing that I see in the sisters is that they are willing to descend into the depths of the problem, which is our present culture of death. Not only are y'all willing to give impassioned speeches, to pray, but also to hold the hand of an abortion-minded pregnant woman.
Yeah.
To run a crisis pregnancy center, to literally carry newborn babies in your arms. There's nothing that a Sister of Life isn't willing to do, and as a religious order that y'all haven't done, to build the culture of life in our society. So I feel as though I'm talking to the perfect person about today's topic, which is how to accompany abortion-minded women living in this present culture of death. And I figure a great place to start, sister, is, why have an abortion in the first place? Oftentimes, women don't really want to be in that difficult position. So very plainly, why do women have abortions?
Yeah, no, it's such a great question. Really, a lot of people ask us that. And if I could summarize it in a single word, I would say this: vulnerability. A woman who finds herself in a crisis pregnancy situation is extremely emotionally vulnerable. And this is really because when a woman finds herself pregnant, she experiences it really as a death to self in a certain sense.
Wow.
A young
Well said.
woman
Yeah.
who's in college or working in the world has a plan, a dream, an idea for her life that
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily include motherhood, at least not yet. And so when she finds out that she's pregnant, she's not asking the question of whether or not this is a baby. She's asking the question of, how can I preserve my own life?
Right.
And she begins to think, either my life is over as I know it now, or the life of this child has to come to an end. So it's really an experience of a profound identity crisis.
Wow.
And so as we accompany and begin to understand the heart of a pregnant woman, the heart of what she's carrying, what's going on within her, then we can really meet her in this need. And so when she's in a crisis pregnancy situation, what's going through her mind is, how can I get out of this situation? How can I get out of this mess? And for all of us, when we're in a crisis, we don't necessarily think well, rationally or realistically. And the pain, the fear, the vulnerability can be overwhelming. And we sometimes make choices in a crisis situation that don't reflect our truest selves. So a pregnant woman in this situation, in a crisis situation, is thinking, how can I get out of this?
That makes perfect sense. So it seems as though if you're walking with somebody who's in this this situation, crisis pregnancy, first thing to keep in mind is just remember why, where they are, why they're there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Keep walking with us, sister. If so that's point number one. Remember why they are, where they are, what they're feeling. Empathize with them. What's another thing that we might keep in mind?
I think another important thing to do is to really understand her fears. As I said, she's an experience of profound vulnerability. And there's also many accompanying fears that go along with that.
Yeah.
And our nearly 30 years of working with women in crisis pregnancy situations, they've taught us a lot. And we've heard many of their fears. But if I could summarize their fears and maybe list 5 of them, I would say that the fears in the heart of a pregnant woman are, I'm all alone.
There's nobody with me.
Nope.
It's me and the world.
I got to figure it out. Yeah, that's the first fear. The next one is, I'm not enough. There's a fear that I can't do it. That I can't be a mother at this point. Another fear is that I got to figure it out all by myself.
Right.
Another major fear that women experience is they're afraid that there's no room for this baby in the heart of the father of the baby.
Where's dad? And if he's not in the picture, which oftentimes
Mhm.
he's not at least actively in the picture, what do I do?
Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
and not only that, there's also the fear that there's no room for this baby in the heart of her family members
Yeah.
and the people who matter most to her.
Yeah.
And so she's left with this experience of intense fear and being all alone.
Yeah.
And so one of the things like women often tell us is that the father of the baby will say to her, I'll support you no matter what. And
Mm.
whatever is intended by this statement, this actually confirms for the experience of the woman that she's all alone, that she feels like she has to take care of it herself.
Yeah.
She hears in that statement, he really wants me to have an abortion.
Yeah.
So no matter what is intended by that, that's what she hears. And so what she really hopes the father of the baby would say to her is, this is our baby. I'm with you. I'm for you. I loved you before. I'm going to love you through this. So what we can do with a woman who's in a state of fear and crisis is to surround her with love, because we know that perfect love casts out all fear. And she needs people who will stand in solidarity with her, who will fight for her and fight for the life of her child.
Yeah. Wow. So if you're, again, we're walking with an abortion-minded woman, we're remembering, what she's feeling, how she got to where she is, what she's probably going through mentally. We're remembering what her fears are, the 5 things that you just listed. And as we continue walking with the woman, again, you guys have been doing this for 30 years. What else might you encourage someone to keep in mind?
Yeah, it's so important that we listen well.
Yeah.
When we meet someone in a crisis situation, our first intuition might be to jump in and solve the problem or offer advice or give our opinion.
Fix it.
Right. We just want to
it
fix.
mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because it's so easy from our objective perspective to see that.
Right.
But really, we want to just listen.
Yeah.
It's been well said that you can listen a person to life. Right. You can listen a person to life. When you sit there before another person and you allow her heart to open and her to express her hopes, her dreams, her fears, you can help her to begin to see what's actually happening, to sort through what are the different voices and the different pressures that she's hearing in her life. So when I'm meeting with a pregnant woman, I like to kind of imagine myself with one ear to the heart of Christ and another ear to the heart of the pregnant woman.
Yeah.
And as I'm listening to our Lord, I'm praying with her and I'm praying for her. And I'm also listening to what's happening in her heart so I can help her discern where the different pressures are coming from. Is this the voice of God who always speaks with encouragement, love, affirmation? Or is this the voice of the enemy who's condemning, biting, accusing? And so I want to listen well and listen deeply to her. And while I'm listening to her, she'll have the experience of being received and known and loved in that.
Yeah, I love that point to listen somebody back to life. Doesn't that happen so many times? I love the author Stephen Covey, who reminds us in one of his books that so many people throughout their whole lives receive professional training in writing, in speaking, in generating content, if you will. If only it was the same that we received the same degree of training in listening well, because oftentimes that's more what's needed. And, I hear you talking about, the problem with as I said, they're just going into fix it mode.
Right.
I do that a lot.
Sure.
I get in.
Men are experts at it.
That's right. Yeah. We're pros at fixing things,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not what's needed here. And I think that kind of connects to, another point that you and I have spoken about, before is, not to go into fix it mode. Say a little bit more about that, sister.
No, we really want to, when we approach a woman in a crisis situation, we know that she's in a crisis, but we want to be in a state of leisure. Right?
Yeah.
To not, when I go into a meeting with this woman, I don't have an agenda.
Right.
I don't have a program she's not a problem to solve. I just want to be with her and for her.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything I'm necessarily trying to communicate to her, but I'm there at rest, ready to receive, because I've been given the gift of encountering this other person. And I just want to be with her and for her. My only goal is to hope that she has an experience of being received and loved.
Yes.
And that she'll have an experience of being known in this meeting.
Yeah.
So that's it. I just go and before her in a state of leisure. I'm not in a rush.
Not in a rush. You're just with the person. That which is more important than all else.
Yeah.
Just staying with the person in a leisurely state.
Yeah.
Okay, sisters. So we've talked about the mental state that women find themselves in, the fears that they have, listening well, being in a state of leisure. Is there anything else that you can give us as we seek to build a culture of life and to accompany women through sometimes what is a very difficult experience, a crisis pregnancy?
Yeah. Well, I'll let you in on a secret that
Okay.
we've learned as Sisters of Life.
I'm excited.
We call it delighting in the other,
Huh.
right? It means that when I encounter another person, I've been given the opportunity, the grace of meeting this other person who's a mystery of God's love.
Yeah.
And we know that the only proper response to another human being is love. And
Hmm.
authentic human love first begins by being moved by the goodness of another. So
Hmm.
when I encounter a woman, I want to get to know this woman. I
Yeah.
want to discover what's within her heart. And I want to allow myself to be moved by something within her. Maybe it's her goodness, maybe it's her beauty or courage or fragility. Who knows what I'm going to be moved by? But it's something that happens within me when I encounter this person.
Hmm.
And then what I want to do is I want to hold up something of a mirror to her and to reflect back to her the goodness, the beauty that I see within her. And when she has this experience, this is like emotional food. This is something we all need to thrive and to know that we were made good. And so when she has an experience of her own goodness, then she can make an act of faith in herself. She'll begin to recognize her own dignity. And as I speak to her about her own dignity and the dignity I see in her life and in her child, then she can begin to make an act of faith and choose life for her child.
Yeah.
And so it's through this exchange of her growing in confidence, growing in knowledge of her own goodness, that she can make choices for life.
Wow, sister, I love. I mean, it seems as though there might be something. There's so many common threads to the 5 points that you had.
Mhm.
But the emphasis on the person,
Yeah.
on
Mhm.
relationship
Mhm.
here, not fixing it, as we said so many
Right.
times, but genuinely accompanying, walking with someone
Right.
through this difficult experience. Thank you for giving us
Yeah.
these pointers today. And thank you for the work that the Sisters of Life are doing throughout the country and the world to build a culture of life. I'd like to close by challenging everyone to take a little something, to take a little lesson from what the Sisters of Life are doing. We're living in what will hopefully be a post-abortion society in the generations to come, but we're not there yet. Now, post-Roe, this is when the work begins. There's a lot to do to build a culture of life. And if you find yourself in a position where you're accompanying an abortion-minded woman, or really any woman who's struggling with the difficulty of an unexpected pregnancy, to keep Sisters' points in mind. Once again, thank you. This has been the Love Life series from the Fellowship of Catholic University Students. Have a wonderful day.